We are live streamed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the panel this evening, talking about transitions back to our communities. My name is Robin Tenenbaum, and I'm proud to be the board chair for the Inside Alliance. I want to welcome our participants, all of whom will introduce themselves in a moment, but first, it's such a pleasure to introduce our moderator, Rakeem Washington. Rakeem is the Director of Access and Reentry at Portland Community College. I first met him about 3 years ago at the Columbia River Correction Institution when I was accompanying our founder, Anna Debenham, who was teaching a class there. And Rakeem came to a class one night to talk to the guys about their education options as they transition back to our communities, should they want to get a degree or learn a trade. And he handed out business cards to all the participants and encouraged them to call him so he could help them navigate the system. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, I will personally walk you anywhere you need to go to help you get done whatever is needed. And it was in that moment, I was so warmed by his kindness and compassion in that moment. And really, whenever our paths cross, he certainly seems to live life leading with his heart. Rakeem dedicates his work towards empowering the voices and increasing the visibility of underserved and disenfranchised individuals and populations. Our city and our world are made so much better with Rakeem as its resident. And so please welcome our moderator, Rakeem Washington.
Well, thanks, Robin. You caught me off guard with that intro there. I was kind of like a little bit choked up. Thank you for that. And a big thank you to Robin and Lindsay, Barb, Anna, others at the Inside Alliance for having me back. I think this is the second year that I've moderated panels for the Inside Alliance, and I really appreciate the chance to connect with folks and to continue a really, really important conversation. But before we get started, we've got 4 folks on the panel that I would love to have introduce themselves really quickly, just so we can get to know each other a little bit before we start this conversation. And I think perhaps I'll start with you, Carl, if you wouldn't mind going first, just to introduce yourself, and then maybe share just a little bit about why this conversation about transitions is so important to you.
Hi, my name is Carl. The reason why this transition is important to me is, I mean, we all need to change. You know, everybody needs to change. You know, everyone needs to know this knowledge. You know, because I mean, it can help. If it can help me, it can help anyone. You know, and it's nothing that we're taught. It's just something that we're awakened to, and you know, it's just life changing in my eyes. You know, just speaking from my voice.
Thank you, Carl.
Yep.
We're going to come back to that conversation, that idea that everyone needs to change, because that is certainly that resonates with me already, and I imagine it does with others as well. And I want to explore that idea a little bit more. I appreciate you sharing that. Tamarjay, would you like to go next? You just gotta don't forget to unmute. There you go.
I said, hi, I'm Tamarjay Polk. I'm 23 years old, and this conversation resonates with me. I want to say because I've been through certain situations and been enlightened by certain knowledge, and it opened my mind up so I can have more of an understanding, not just understanding everything else that goes on around me, but understanding myself as well.
Thank you, Tamarjay. And also we'll come back to that piece of the conversation too, thinking about the reason for change, as Carl was talking about, but that idea that from that change comes growth, and that we need that growth to survive. We need that growth to thrive. Thank you for that, Tamarjay. Jimmy, would you like to go next?
Sure, I am Jimmy Brundage, and I took the class about 3 years ago, I guess it was, and literally changed my life. It's an understanding that lives within us, that has lived within me, that I guess it was just awoken, if that's a proper term. It was a knowledge that was just brought to me that here I am, and I am perfectly perfect just the way that I am, and I have lived a life of questioning who I was and questioning what I wanted to be, or pretending to be somebody that I wasn't. And I'm okay just the way that I am, and I don't have to live that life anymore. And there's a whole bunch more to talk there, but it's literally changed my life. I have drank too much to suppress and to cope with my insecurities in life. And I could go on for a couple hours here talking about it, but it's an understanding that it's not like a project that there's homework, or that there's things for us to take home or anything else. It's just purely an understanding that lived within me, and that was awoken. And it's the happiest I've ever been in this transition in my life. And I'm going to be good the rest of my life. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. And I'm just listening to you talk, just feeling a sort of a theme of empowerment coming from what you were sharing there. And so
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Carl talking about, that path that every single human being is on, in terms of like, we are here because we change, we adapt. And Tamarjay talking about the growth that comes from that, and then you talking about the empowerment that's a result from all of that. Is just, I like those three themes just to start with. So we'll come back to those in a little bit. Cassie, would you like to share next?
Yeah, my name's Cassia. I use she, her pronouns. And this conversation, I'm so honored to be a part of with y'all. And the concept of how we transition and how we support people in transition, and why transition is so important, is personal to me in a different way. I've been a public defender for 14 years, and I've seen how terrible the system treats folks and communities and families, and how kind of all of the lip service around people who support our prison system, being that you come out reformed, and somehow we welcome you back with with open arms, is not the case. And even just speaking from my own personal experience as a public defender, I never went in and visited my clients in prison after we were done working on their cases. And so after I left the public defender's office about 4 years ago, I started volunteering a lot inside of a couple of different facilities, but mostly OSP, and helping educate myself on that transition process, and help my own transition from somebody who didn't really think about the back end piece. And so I'm just excited to be here in conversation with y'all.
Thanks, Cassia. And just really quickly before we get started, I'll just share something very personal about myself. I hate transitions. I do very poorly in any transition. They make me anxious, and long periods of time spent in transition change my anxiety, and sometimes into depression. Transitions can be really hard for folks. Transitions from incarcerated settings are infinitely more hard because of some of the things that you just talked about, Cassie, in terms of like, what are those expectations for folks that are leaving incarcerated settings and then going back into the quote unquote real world. So I'd like to maybe start there, and maybe Tamarjay, maybe you'd like to start by answering this question. Like, what were your expectations when you transitioned? What were you expecting to feel or experience when you made that move? Don't forget to unmute.
I was expecting relief, like a big relief. Weight of the world let off my shoulders. Probably a sense of gratitude, to be more appreciative for things I took for granted.
Yeah, and did you feel those things? Do you still feel those things?
Yeah, I do, most definitely. I do. being incarcerated for a long time, it's a lack of normal experience, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel connected to the world and what is real and things. You learn not to take like little things for granted.
Hmm.
You look at everything like in a blessing, as a blessing, so to speak. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And maybe this is something, Jimmy, you might have some insight on too. Sort of thinking about, the what's next, the little things that you don't want to take for granted. How did Inside Alliance help you sort of prepare for that process?
You mean as far as the transition or
Yeah, just in your mindset about transitioning, like as you got closer, perhaps, maybe that's a better question. As you got closer to transitioning, how
yeah,
has your time with Inside Alliance sort of helped you get ready for that?
It helped me a ton because I tend to live and have lived in the past of in a land of grandiosity and total full disclosure here. um, Live audience, but anyway, I that's really what I did. I would just live in this land of total chaos, quite frankly, and grandiosity, and in my mind, and build up what I felt my expectations were. Part of my upbringing, which I don't necessarily have to get into that, but was that to succeed and to always do better than and always be number one, and so as I laid there, as I sat in solitary confinement, as I was in a jail cell, in a dorm room, always dreaming about what I was going to go do, and what the Inside Alliance and this understanding gave me was that I'm okay. I'm okay just the way that I am. I don't have to sit and dream and wonder and worry, because with all of those expectations comes worry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then this cyclical effect for me was those expectations that I put on myself in the past, they fall short, then I feel like a failure, then I drink, so this understanding gave me this solid foundation that I'm going to be okay. And I'm completely okay today. I'm completely okay.
Yeah.
And so that land of grandiosity and self-implied or self-exposed expectations, I guess, that I lived in, I don't have to live there anymore. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be a success just the way that I am.
Yeah.
And, defining success has all changed too because of this understanding.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. And I really appreciate that last thing you sort of left us with there, that the definition of success evolved and it changed for you based on your experience with the Inside Alliance.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially in context with all of those other experiences that you'd had before, sort of being in a place to sort of rethink what success for me means for you as an individual is part of that empowerment that you're talking about earlier, right? That gives you the ability to sort of define your pathway because of that.
And another, how that segues into the taking this all back into the Inside Alliance, because ultimately what that gives us is happiness and peace, right? And that's what I've never ever had in my life. And today I have happiness and peace that I can't explain, I can't put words to it, I can't articulate, other than just saying I have peace in my heart and in my mind and in my soul today, that I can just be Jimmy and it's okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. I appreciate that vulnerability too and sharing part of your story. There's probably a lot of folks, I'm just assuming, out there in, I guess, TV land. I don't know, how does this work? I don't know if it's TV land. We're not technically on TVs. Sort of thinking about like, how do you leave a setting such as prison, incarceration, and find happiness and peace? That probably feels disconnected for some folks. So I want to sort of put a bookmark in that, because I think we should come back to that at some point. I wrote myself down a question to make sure we talk about that a little bit more. But I think there's a lot of folks that want to hear from y'all about how to sort of resolve that dissonance of well, how do you find happiness and peace after being, like in your case, Jimmy, you said solitary for some time. I think a lot of folks may find that hard to grasp. So I want to come back to that in a second. But before we do that, maybe turn to you, Carl, with a similar question in terms of, does that, some of the things you heard from Jimmy and Tamarjay feel true to you too, that there was a sort of evolution from your own perspective and feeling about where you found happiness, where you found peace, and what that looks like for you?
Yeah, just man, it's a beautiful feeling, man. Just me, I'm happy, man. I mean, I haven't been this happy and at peace like this ever, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been through a lot, you know, and I'm pretty sure we all have, you know, and the way I thought, you know what I'm saying, just like what Jimmy was saying, I mean, it was just chaos. I couldn't find nothing positive. You know, I didn't want to find anything positive. I was negative all the time. And I had a issue with positive people for some odd reason. You know, just seeing nice people and people that are smiling and stuff, and I always had something bad to say about them under my breath because I was ashamed of my own insecurities. You know? And I was, you know, I really wanted to be that way, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
You know, because of the friends I had, you know what I'm saying, people I was around, just negativity. But then once I got this understanding, I mean, from the first class, man, it was just like a ton of weights just fell off my back. You know, I felt so light. I smiled that first class. I smiled from ear to ear for the first time and couldn't stop smiling. I was really that happy. And just to know that, you know, I have total control of what's going on up here. Just knowing that I can make myself mad, I can make myself happy, I can live the life I want to live, I can do what I want to do with the control of this. Knowing that, man, that just man, it's amazing. Just that feeling is amazing. And you know, and man, I mean, just I did 15 years in the pen. I've been out almost 5 years. You know, I haven't been back and just been living, man. And it just been, I mean, just like Jimmy said, I see my success different. And I totally agree with you on that. I see success differently now.
Yeah. Can I say just real quick, Carl, we met just last week, actually.
Yeah.
And your positivity, I felt that immediately. In your voice, in your warmth, in your smile, everything you just said, just from my experience and in conversation with you, felt 100% accurate. I appreciate you sharing that. And something you said too that I think is just, I'm reflecting on that as I heard you say it, and it's a simple thought that is a very profound thought that I think we don't pay enough attention to. And it's when you said, I feel happy, right? And here's where it came up for me. Happy people can do amazing, outstanding things.
Yes.
People in the midst of chaos, in the midst of turmoil, can also do outstanding things, but it feels different. It comes at a different cost. It takes much more energy. You risk a lot more in the process. If you're at a place where you're truly feeling some peace and happiness, the sort of trajectory you can create for yourself feels much more limitless.
Yes.
So I just appreciate you sharing that, because and maybe Cassie, you'll speak to this. We'll turn it to you in a second, but we don't need to belabor it too much, but by and large, incarcerated settings don't inspire happiness, right? That is not what they're designed for. That's not what folks get from them. But if happiness might be part of the recipe for ending recidivism, shouldn't we be finding ways to help people foster that? And so I just appreciate your connection there to Inside Alliance, you and Jimmy and Tamarjay, all three of you talking about how that has sort of connected some peace and happiness to you. Yeah, Jimmy, did you want to add something?
Yeah.
To that? Go ahead.
Do you mind if I jump in just real quick?
Course,
Just
yeah.
on
Go
that
ahead.
topic, on the incarceration of happiness. After, I can honestly say, and I'm probably speaking for the other guys here too, but after this understanding, opening my eyes to other people, to other people's situations, to my situation, to be able to really recognize, I can honestly say, and I never in a million years would ever think I would say this, but some of the happiest times in my entire life were being incarcerated, because I had that sense of peace in me after this understanding and being able to be comfortable with who I am. Then I saw the good in others, because I got out of myself and into others, and I was able to appreciate others and other backgrounds and other, spinning laps and talking and meaningful conversations. I just wanted to jump in there and just about that topic of the happiness while you're incarcerated, because I wasn't counteracting what you were saying, because those were seriously, and on top of that, some of the most intelligent, brilliant, kindest, loving people that I've ever met in my life. I was just talking to my son just yesterday about this topic. I truly mean that. Some of the most brilliant, kindest, most loving, considerate men that I've ever met were in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Jimmy. And I think part of what the three of you are also doing is sort of providing a really important counter narrative to what a lot of folks might assume, folks that have been incarcerated, who they are, what they've done, what they've experienced. Like, you all are providing a very important part of that story that is oftentimes untold, overlooked, or ignored. So I appreciate that. And maybe, Cass, if you don't mind waiting just another second, because I want to explore a little bit more about what Jimmy was talking about. And maybe Tamarjay or Carl, you want to sort of speak to this too. But I think part of what I heard you say, Jimmy, is just through your connection with, not only through what you learned in the Inside Alliance, but also maybe even more importantly, in some sense, the connection to the other people going through that process with you sort of unlocked some levels of like sincere, real empathy, not only for yourself, but for the other human beings that you spent that significant time with.
Absolutely. And, the backgrounds, the different backgrounds, and being able to appreciate different backgrounds, different ethnicity of different cultural backgrounds, different upbringings, and being able to appreciate it. And some of the, like I said, just the best friends of real people I met there. So anyway, sorry, Carl, go ahead.
Thanks, Jimmy. Carl or Tamarjay, you want to talk a little bit about that, those feelings of empathy? Was that something that you all felt going through this process?
Yeah, I'll speak on it. Most definitely. Once I heightened my mentality and got a certain amount of knowledge via my program and through personal experience, I gained more of a sense of compassion, which led me to be interested in helping others out, hearing them out, talking about their situations, and therefore creating stronger relationships with certain people that I never thought I would, you know what I'm saying? So I most definitely resonate with what Jimmy is saying.
Yeah. Thanks, Tamarjay. Carl, did you want to add to that too?
Yeah, same here, man. I mean, we're all human, and when you give someone a chance, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you actually get to sit down and know someone, you'll find that you guys are similar in certain ways, and I learned that just by this understanding, just giving people a chance, you know what I'm saying? Just loving people, I became a people person in prison. For real. Before then, you couldn't find me around people. I'll stay to myself, or maybe like a couple cats that I grew up with. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, you wouldn't find me around no one else, you know, because I didn't want to be around a lot of people. I didn't want to be in a crowd of people. But being in prison, you couldn't help but be in a crowd of people. You know, you couldn't help but build those relationships with different people, you know, and you know, with this understanding, it just opened me up all the way. And I was vulnerable to a lot of different people, you know, and became real good friends with a lot of different people that I never thought that I would be friends with, you know. Like a guy with, you know, he had I don't want to say the word, but it wasn't a racial word, but it was a word that he had on his neck. You know what I'm saying? He was a white gang member, but me and him ended up being real cool, you know, and he ended up he didn't go into the inside of the lines, but I used to always talk to him, and I still talk to him to this day. And you know, he's not a white supremacist or whatever you want to call it. You know, he's not one of them guys anymore. And you know, he's, you know, I talk to him like I said every day, and we talk, and you know, he's a real good friend of mine.
Yeah,
Just people that I never thought that I'd ever be friends with. You know, man, it's crazy. It's crazy how this understanding really opens you up. You know, that it opens me up. You know, I want to meet everyone. I love everybody. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I am. And I wasn't like that at first, you know?
Yeah.
And before this, and now, yeah.
Yeah.
I still talk to probably, man, I want to say about 10 people that I was in prison with. We still conversate. And those 10 people I would have never, before then, I would have never even talked to, you know, and, you know, we have real relationship with them guys. So, yeah. I resonate with that, what Jimmy said a lot, big time.
Thanks, Carl. And again, just a sort of just reflecting on just that idea of what humanity is, right? Who gets to be called human and who doesn't? And society tends to sort of reserve that term for folks that don't go to prison, that don't go to jail. But we should be doing the opposite, because from what I'm hearing from you, especially with support of programs like Insight Alliance, there is tremendous opportunity for us to find even more space to include folks that really we all should be included in that category. And so you all are the ones on the forefront, sort of leading what that means to actually connect with folks on a really basic cellular level as human beings. Appreciated your description to that. I want to come back in a little bit to talk about like what is the process like the nuts and bolts of like being a part of Insight Alliance, what that feels like. But before doing that, maybe turn to you, Cassie, because I know you've worked with a lot of folks over the years, and you've been a public defender for about 15 years. It's about 15-ish years. I know I should not be dating anyone. That's my bad. We went to school at the same time though. So if I do that to you, I do that to myself. You've also seen firsthand, as you support folks leaving incarcerated settings, what barriers exist that sometimes they may be prepared for, sometimes maybe not. Can you share a little bit about what things sort of get in the way of that healthy, happy transition that folks are looking for?
Yeah, as you all were sharing and talking, I was just so struck that, you know, the whole point or part of the point of the prison system is to take from people. It is to control and limit access. It is to, you know, like it's not just a matter of incarcerating somebody's body. It is to separate them from their family, their community, from their norms, from things that that they give them some support. And it's that kind of loss of trust that the system I see all the time. I mean, not that the system should be trusted to begin with. I can tell you from a public defender, we should not trust the system ever. But as somebody who's helped several people transition back, it rebuilding what relationship and community and connection means and also doing it in a way that is actually supporting what that person needs as opposed to what we think they need. So for example, I recently had the honor of helping work on a friend's clemency petition, and we were able to get him released after 25 years. And he had to move into a kind of transitional housing downtown at first. And I said, oh, don't worry, I'll get you a bus pass. And he was like, I'm not getting on a bus downtown. I was like, well, how are you going to get from place to A to B? And he's like, you're going to come pick me up and take me from place A to place B, or I will walk, because it's not cool for me to be on a bus right now. I'm not getting on a bus. I'm not getting around people. I'm just gonna, I'll be, I'll take it. We'll figure it out, but I'm not getting on a bus. And it was the first time that I recognized that even though I've been a public defender for 15 years, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know and I missed. But yet we take people and we put them back into communities or places where it's not going to be good for them to be. Right. And he knew that for himself, but the system didn't really have an answer. Or recently he wanted to get a car, but he has back payments to make, right? So then there's this like catch-22 of how are you gonna get a job with you don't have a car and you can't use public transit and you're far away from everything, but you can't get a car and get it licensed if you have back payments, which means you can't pay those unless you have a job. Like the system is not set up to support people transitioning back. It is not meant to help people live their best lives or be supported. It's not set up in a way to help family members navigate bringing somebody back home or, any of the community pieces. So when Jimmy and Tamarjay and Carl, you were just talking about finding the happiness and control for yourselves inside your brain, I was just like, that is such a key component, but not much inside, like not much structurally inside that I have seen helps people set up for that.
Thanks, Cassie. And I really appreciate you sort of framing up this question, because I think this is a good place to pivot to, is you're talking about a system that is really designed for power and control, right? Moving people around, telling them what they can do. I mean, cutting off freedom, essentially, right? And something Jimmy said earlier in the conversation was all about self-empowerment. Like that is part of what he and Carl and Tamarjay have taken away from their time with Inside Alliance. And I'm really, really curious, and I imagine folks that are listening or will watch this later are really, really curious about how does that empowerment work? Like, how do you get from a place that is designed to sort of take that from you and keep that from you? How do you get that back with the understanding that you need that in order to be your best, happiest, most successful self once you leave? Carl, you unmuted. Do you want to answer that question first?
Yeah, the way that I did mine was, I was in jail. So, I figured, I'm in here now. This place it's not designed to rehabilitate you. It's not designed to keep you out of prison. It's designed to keep you in prison. They do try to lock you up mentally and physically all at the same time. But if like me, I didn't let them lock me up here mentally. I always wanted something with myself. I always wanted to do something. I never knew what I wanted to do until I got this understanding. And once I got this understanding, I knew that nothing could stop me because I'm in control of this right here. And that's what prison does. It breaks people. It's designed to break you. If you let it break you, and I know a lot of people that it has broken, but if you let it break you, you broke. But you can also unbreak yourself too, And me personally, once I got this understanding, and I just had this feeling that I can't be stopped. I'm unstoppable. I can do what I want to do. Once I get out of here, I'm going. I'm flying. I mean, The things that I did in prison, I taught myself how to work. Never had a job a day in my life before prison. I taught myself how to work. I programmed myself to get up at certain times, 5 o'clock in the morning every morning, because I knew once I got out, I was gonna have to get up at them hours anyway to go to work. You know, so I programmed myself like that. I get up like that now. Like I said, I made sure that I learned everything in there, you know, so it wouldn't be no excuse that I couldn't find work. That was the number one thing. And I just knew that I was gonna make it. You know, it was in my head, stuck in my head. You're gonna do this, man. This is it for you. You know, you're not coming back here. They want you back. But I'm not gonna let you come back.
Yeah.
You know.
And Carl, can you share a little bit too about how, like how your time with, and I'll hope that Jimmy and Tamarjay answer this question too, how the time you spent with Inside Alliance supported you in that? Like every time you got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, every time you were practicing for being at work outside of that incarcerated setting, how did Inside Alliance help support you in coming to that awakening, that new mindset that you're talking about?
I was able to see. I was able to see past my nose. You know, I knew it. Just with that understanding, just me knowing that I'm gonna have to live this way. I'm gonna have to be an adult when I get out of here. I'm gonna have to take care of myself and my family. Inside Alliance opened my eyes to all that because I didn't see that. You know, so that really made me want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to work, get me a job, you know, stay out of jail, don't commit any crimes, leave the gang stuff alone. You know, that right there, once I was able to open my eyes and see what it was really about, because I was blinded. I didn't see the bad things that was going on. I didn't see none of the chaos that was going on. But when I was able to open my eyes, I seen all that, and it scared me. And the only thing I'm saying, if I stay with that, I'll be right here for the rest of my life. I don't want that.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate you just your real talk with that. And part of, you know, the first word that came up for me as I was hearing you answer that question is, it sounds like in a lot of ways, part of what you got from your experience in Inside Alliance was just honesty with yourself, right? Like having a real reflective, honest conversation with yourself, maybe in ways that you had never had before. And in that came some of that awakening that you're talking about. And thanks, Carl, for that. Jimmy and Tamarjay, you all talked about that sort of awakening too. Do either of you want to speak a little bit to that? Jimmy, I see you headed for the unmute. I think Tamarjay beat you by a second or two. Why don't you go first, Tamarjay, then we'll have you go next, Jim.
All right. For me, involving the Inside Alliance, they made me understand the resilience and perseverance that already lived within myself. So I used to think like you just got dealt bad cards. You know what I'm saying? You go through unfortunate situations because that's your life, and you have no choice but to push through. But I didn't realize that not everybody pushed through. There is a breaking point for some people. There is a point that people get to very depressed or no return. You know what I'm saying? But they had me come to terms with resilience also does lie within everyone. You just have to tap into it and realize. And I started looking at different situations in a whole new light. You know, I start comparing situations. If I got through this, then this situation will be a piece of cake for me. Like, I got incarcerated at 16 years old. I didn't get out until my early 20s, you know? So I had to learn how to try to be an adult. I never had a model adult to look up to show me those things. So just like he was saying, I had to learn how to get up in the morning to go to work, learn a trade, everything of that matter, you know? And I did the same thing. I was learning all those things for when I got out. it all transferred, you know. So Inside Alliance has really awoken my resilience and allowed me to understand more about myself and how strong I am and how I have the power to be okay. Because at the end of the day, we are all okay. And that's the mindset that they taught me. At the end of the day, I'm going to be okay. Whatever's going on will pass as long as I process it properly. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tamarja. I think I got a couple of goosebumps there a second ago as you're talking about just that power of resilience. And I hope folks that are watching sort of heard that. And I wonder if other folks felt it the same way. But one of the things that you said earlier too is that part of this process has been about growth for you, right? And you talk about going in at 16 and coming out in your early 20s. Like, with the exception of maybe early childhood, there aren't very many parts in a human being's life that are filled with so many opportunities for growth, besides those
Right.
like late teen to early 20 years. So for you to do that in that space, with that resiliency that you talk about is just an amazing concept. And for all of us, whatever we're transitioning through, we don't grow without resilience, right? If we have to run through barriers or around them or on top of them or under them, whatever we do, we have to get on the other side in order to grow. But if we don't have resilience, we hit that barrier and we fall flat. And so as Cassia was describing how some of those barriers for transition are significant, more so than I think a lot of folks understand sometimes, it also means the resilience required to get through those barriers is equally as significant as the barrier itself. And so hearing you say part of what Inside Alliance helped me do was find the resilience to deal with some really significant barriers in the midst of being a teenager, early 20s. That's astounding to me. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for that. Jimmy, did you want to add something there?
Yeah. So I think the empowerment that the Inside Alliance set me up for in transition was I discovered, and I didn't, it always laid in the back of my mind, but I didn't really realize how massive it really was about my insecurities that I had all my whole life. That understanding that I'm okay, like Tamarja said, Carl says, it's like we're okay, all of us are, and there's bumps, and life isn't perfect even today. And preparing me for being able to not react. I still react. I still shouldn't react the way that I do on certain scenarios, but I'm cognizant of it these days. In this transition and preparation from the Inside Alliance, along with the insecurities, it gave me the knowledge or the understanding to be able to prepare myself for people that are going to judge me. Mm-hmm. And I've always, my whole life, wondered what people were thinking. Did my ears stick out too far? Did I have a mole on my head? Just whatever it is. Is my hair cut too short? Playing athletics, business, whatever it is, those massive insecurities and everything that I did were so prevalent in my life. And I had to prepare myself to be able to not care really what people, and there's people that judge me today. But it's okay. It's okay for them to judge. It's okay for them to have their opinions, and I'm okay. And then the other thing in preparation for transition that the Inside Alliance prepared me for was reaction. And I don't know this to be true on the percentage here, but I would guess that 95% of all of the people incarcerated have reacted to something. And by them reacting, in whatever the scenario is, by them reacting, put them in prison. And I personally, this understanding through the Insight Alliance prepared me for not reacting to scenarios. Life still happens. Life still just shitty at times. And life still, my family isn't perfect. But I don't have to react, and I don't have to smother, and I don't have to try to get people or whatever it is, get them to bleed my side. And I don't have to go cope myself through alcohol these days. And I don't have to go and lean on that, those false friendships and false relationships in my life that always just covered up those insecurities. And so that's what really this understanding and truly the Insight Alliance, that's where I said in the beginning, it's changed my life. And Carl and Tamarjay can totally attest to that as well.
Yeah, really powerful statements, Jimmy. And just maybe this is just a rhetorical question. No one needs to answer this, but I imagine part of what you all find in terms of success on the other side is all the energy saved from not reacting, from not being in that negative headspace. Like it costs more energy for us to be in that negative space than it does for us to be in a positive space. And so frequently, the transition from incarceration has so many negative connotations around it. It can be easy for folks to be right back in that negative space, which sort of puts us that drain back on us.
Right.
But you're describing something very different. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
You know what? That's like, and it just tickles me because I remember the exact time I said this to Anna. I have so much time in my days these days. There's so much time in my days because I'm not just ruminating in my brain of like, what's this doing in the chaos and just running in my brain. And when I put my head on my pillow, one of the toughest times of my life and the struggles that I had was I had so much guilt. I had so much shame. I had so much insecurities in my life. Me putting my head on my pillow was painful, was painful for me. And today, my sleep is awesome. I get to sleep and just be joyful. And I have so much time in my day because of it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Jimmy. And I'm going to turn to you here just in 1 second, Carl, but just wanted to, we're getting almost close to the end of our hour. Just pause to sort of thank the four of you, and Jimmy, Tamarjay, and Carl, just for your willingness to share your stories. There's a lot of inspiration in them. There's a lot of hope in them. There's a lot of people that need to hear this. There's a lot of people that would benefit from hearing this conversation. There's a lot of people would benefit from knowing that whatever they're feeling in preparation for that transition or before that transition doesn't have to be something they feel forever, that there can be an end to that and something much better can come in its replacement. So just really appreciate y'all for sharing. Carl, could you share a little bit about the Project 180 peer mentorship program and your experience with that?
Well, I'm currently a mentor right now. We're mentoring pretty much men, women, youngsters coming out of McLaren. We're trying to make a change, man. And it starts with trying to help, trying to give back, and I do this because I've taken so much out of my community. I want to just give back, and I enjoy it. I'm currently mentoring the guy right now. He's out on federal pretrial release. He's doing pretty good as a job. He's doing pretty good, man. He wants to become a mentor, so we talked about that a couple of times and see what that would look like. But yeah, it's going pretty good. It's going pretty good.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. And Tamarjay, you earlier had talked about being 16, being locked up, not having role models at the moment. Could you talk a little bit, maybe either like almost like a visionary concept, like what would your life have been like had you had a mentorship program, had you had an adult to check in with, to say, hey, Tamarja, let me pull you to the side real quick. I need to talk to you.
Able to change the narrative a whole lot, because I didn't really have no examples. I was kind of always on my own, figuring it out for my own self. So it would have gave me some sense of direction. But I actually do have a mentor right now, and it's been great actually.
Yeah.
I
And
achieved a
yeah,
lot.
go ahead. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to keep going.
his name is Brandon Brown, and we pretty much see each other every day. I actually work with him, and so through the mentorship program, I've actually achieved a lot and got so much further than I thought I would. Just being released from jail and everything like that.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing you're both describing, just in terms of like I think a lot of this conversation that started with talking about the connections that y'all found to Inside Alliance, other folks going through it at the same time, but how you now a different part of that connection for someone else as you've gone through your transition, right? And that to me is part of what a transition actually is. It's not just the physical moving from one place to another, is the evolution and the growth of human beings that happens to the point of where the student becomes the teacher, or the whatever the Star Wars saying is. I don't remember. But you get to that place where you, like you say, Carl, you're giving back to the community that you say, you've taken from. And I imagine that's part of where your happiness lies as well, right? Like being able to give back to folks, being in a position to steer someone differently than the path that you are on.
Yes. I lost my son in 2014. He was 17. And, he was following the same first. He was trying to fill my shoes. And I lost him. And I swore to myself that if I could do anything to help someone so that they don't have to experience that, I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
So that's, man, see, that's what I'm saying. This insight really opened me up, man, because I would have never thought like that. I will be out for revenge and all kind of stuff. But right now, I'm on. I just want to make sure no one else goes through the same thing, and that drives me.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, Carl. I don't have words for that. I've got 3 of my own, and I don't know if I could have finished that sentence. And in that, just from like a human being to a human being, forget the call for a second. Whatever you would ever need from me in support of your giving back, please don't ever hesitate to call. Because I think the reason the 4 of you are on the call together is not simply just because you have similar experiences having been incarcerated, have similar experiences having gone through the Inside Alliance, but it's in what you've done with that, right? The what you've done with that understanding, what you've done with that growth, and what you expect and hope to do going forward. It's bigger. I think I've heard you all say this in your own way. Your next day is always bigger than yourself. And for you to show up your best, you just need to be content with being who you are and understanding that you will be good that day, and you lend whatever positivity to the universe you can in that exploration of the next day. And you get up and you do it all over again. And that feels like a much better path than you were on. And let's be candid, than a lot of us who have not had experiences of incarceration are on. So I just appreciate the inspiration and just the realness coming from y'all in that sense. We're down to like our last, just like 3 or 4 minutes, and just want to sort of ask the group if there's anything in particular that you feel you want to share to folks about your own experience, about Inside Alliance and its impact on you. Anything you might want to even ask each other. Cassie, you are in a different position given your role, but maybe something that you've learned in your connection with folks and just sort of meeting people where they are and helping them be their best selves after incarceration. Anybody have anything? We're getting close to parting words? Yeah, go ahead, Tamarja.
I just want to say, with Cassie working inside the system, she's absolutely right. Like I've been through that when I've been released from incarceration, and I was just basically thrown back in the world with no, you know what I'm saying? No plan, like no resources, and that's where the Inside Alliance came in. Though they helped me out a lot with that aspect of things. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, thanks,
Because
Tamarja.
there's no release plan. Like once, you know what I'm saying? Once you get released.
Yeah. And that, like y'all are saying, that release plan has to come from within. And it's nice that y'all had some help figuring that out before you were out, right? Because then the pressure of the world that Cassie was describing sort of happens immediately. And so to be able to prepare for that before you leave, to have the Inside Alliance help think through that is, sounds like a really important part of your journey. Yeah, Cassie, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm always so moved by hearing from you folks, and that it just this, in addition to the transition that we need to build so that folks can move and transition out of prison, we folks on the outside need to transition from a system and structure that thinks that we are different than, right? Like I am of you and you are of me. We are a community, and we have an obligation to care for and take care of each other and learn how to be in community together. And so it's not just folks transitioning out of prison that need to change. It's folks like me who support systems, who want to make change to systems, who want to dismantle systems, who want to build something new, but also as a community member, as all sorts of things. I need to learn to transition in a way to help embrace and see and value the wholeness of all folks, which also means the brokenness of ourselves and our systems.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cassie. Really appreciate those words. Jimmy, you got one last thing you'd like to say?
Yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in. Of course. Just in conclusion for me anyway, and if I can help out circle this all the way back, this isn't just a belief. It's not just an understanding. It's sure this has changed the three of our lives, but if you think about the three of our lives and multiply that by every single person who's incarcerated and how that can truly change society and the criminal aspects and the crimes and the harm and the pain that we've all inflicted on others, that we are walking testament to what this Inside Alliance can do for overall communities, our society, and the world, quite frankly. So anyway, I just wanted to jump in and say, if you have, we are raising money this month. And if you have an extra $10, an extra $50, there isn't a better program on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Carl, any last words before we sign off?
It's all about change.
Yeah.
It's all about change.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
That's the one constant, right?
Man,
it must change.
Must change. It's a lot of lip service. There's a lot of lip service, no action.
Yeah.
Got to change.
Thank you for that, Carl. I'll say much love to the four of you, to the folks at Inside Alliance for the work that y'all are doing, for the work that you've done, and for continuing to be a part of this really important conversation. I hope folks at home had a moment of some real self-reflection and chance to sort of rethink the way we think about incarcerated settings, but more importantly, the way we think about the people that leave them. So I'll turn it back over to you, Robin.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Rakeem. Thanks, Jimmy, Carl, Cassia, Tamarja. That was really wonderful. Thanks to people tuning in. I'm kind of choked up myself here. If you're interested in knowing more about the Inside Alliance and about Project 180, the program that helps ease transitions for people getting out of prison. We're at the InsideAlliance.org. I wanted to just touch for a second about Project 180 and how proud we are of that program that works in the community with reentry services such as peer mentorship, as Carl was talking about, case management and ongoing support, insight to well-being, drop-in groups, a clothing closet, micro grants, and an emergency fund. So, definitely get in touch, the InsideAlliance.org. And yes, we're in the home stretch of our 30 days of giving with just over $5,000 to raise. So thank you to all who've contributed so far. And thank you in advance to those who helped get us over the finish line. And thank you to all of you so much for being a part of this.